Hello everybody and welcome back to the ESL UK Premiership. We're here for our second game, although it might feel like the first, between FM Esports and XL Esports. My name is Munchballs and casting with me once again is of course going to be Vedius as we head into Game 2. FM somehow miraculously pulling Game 1 back into their favour.
So basically it came down to XL Esports picking a fight in the top half of FM's jungle, and they just weren't quite able to kill Toaster. You know, we talked about how it was going to be a matter of who died first, Toaster or XL. And in the fight that they went for, they just couldn't quite get onto him, they couldn't quite do the damage that they needed to do, and as a result, Toaster turned that fight around, they got the Baron, and once they had the Baron, they then just slowly closed out the game through a few minor misplays coming out from XL. So, you know, I can imagine that XL are pretty disappointed after that. You know, after having such a commanding lead over a team like FM Esports to then lose it at the very end, must be very disappointing, but you know, not all hope is lost. You know, they're actually going to earn themselves a Respect Evelyn ban, which I do quite like coming out from FM Esports. They don't want Maldo to be having the same sort of sort of impact that he had last game, but that does mean it's going to leave his Lee Sin open. Lee Sin is one of his go-to champions. He does have pretty good KDA. He's got over 200 games on the champion. Definitely one of his, you know, comfort picks. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that come out fairly early. But I'd be surprised to see, and there it is, speak of the devil, I wouldn't be surprised to see Toaster respond picking up that Jinx again, considering how well it worked for them in the last game. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Toaster is renowned for his Jinx within the UK scene anyway, even outside of this particular series. And honestly, not surprised to see him doing phenomenally on it once again. We'll see if he can repeat that performance, if he does lock that one in. But Maldo on the Lee Sin, I'm not sure where I got Jinx from. I'm busy trying to sort the overlays, I'll be honest. Interesting bans coming out though. A couple of respect bans, as you say. Fiora banned away from Flaxish though. We saw him play this last time against Billy and did a phenomenal job on it.
Yeah, this is a surprisingly strong champion right now, and you know, the Tahm Kench really does work in so many different scenarios. I'll be interested to see where it actually goes, whether they decide to put it top or support. I know that Tundra plays quite a lot of this champion, so it wouldn't surprise me that much to see it come out into the bottom lane, but it would surprise me if Flaxish does actually play it. You know, as we said, he does like to play these carry style champions. He likes to have an impact up in the top lane, and I think it would just be better suited, especially if they decide to put Toaster on that Jinx once again. I feel as though it would be quite smart from Icy to actually pick that one away from him, because I think that giving that over to Toaster once again would be a bit of a risk. But then that would leave champions like the Kalista open, potentially the Vayne, and all this potentially other risky stuff that could come out.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see Kino locking in that Gragas. We've seen Gragas already a few times today. Very, very strong jungler. I mean, I feel like Gragas these days is kind of what Jarvan was sort of last season and the season before, and like since forever. He's that staple kind of defensive jungler. You can go a bit more aggressive, but typically you just see them building tank and you just going for that standard CC. You're able to lock down targets and able to be that tanky front line. Now we're going to see Icy actually picking up the Jinx this time, so all of that waffle earlier from me about Toaster being a good Jinx, Icy is looking to put his foot down and let FM know that he is also a very good Jinx.
Yeah, you know, Icy, he is a very talented AD carry. He's able to play a bunch of different champions. He actually has a 3.5 KD on the champion solo queue, which is relatively impressive. You know, on average, he dies less than 4 times per game, which is typically what you want from your AD carry. And that is going to be going up against the Sivir. So they're going for a bit more of a utility focus coming out from the Sivir this time round. And I think I'm a little bit skeptical considering how Civiz really didn't quite perform in the last game. I felt like Toaster had a massive impact on this champion and on that Jinx, sorry, and being denied one of those hyper carries once again I think could be risky, but it does deny quite a lot of the pick potential coming out from the Morgana. And if XL do decide to run this Lux, I think it's going to be even harder to try and catch out that Sivir. I mean, you know, especially when you run it with a Tahm Kench, you know, if anyone gets binded up, then they just get consumed by the Tahm Kench and then they just run away. But they are going to lock that one in. This big pick potential coming out from XL, I think, is quite risky running into the Tahm Kench, but maybe they can make it work out for them. We'll have to see coming into this game.
Yeah, we certainly will, but the XL lineup has been fully locked in now. And we are looking at a Lux mid here for Ped. Ped doing his very best DX Alchemist impression right now. And with a Lux and a Morgana on top of a Malphite, there is so much pick potential for XL if they can control the map.
Yeah, I mean, XL have so much available in their comp. They've got the early game presence from this Lee Sin. They have a great mid game power spike with the Lux and, you know, the Jinx ideally hitting the two item power spike. As well as that, you've got you then have a fantastic late game with the Jinx. We already saw Toaster last game having a fantastic impact on that champion, and it's just that their comp is very pick orientated, but I think that suits them quite well. I think they quite like catching the enemy team out of position. But what FM decided to do is to try and deal with this. They've gone for much more of a hard engage. They're running a Flaxish's Kassadin up in the top lane. Billy will struggle to deal with this. He has absolutely no kill pressure on that Kassadin. As well as that, there's, you know, you're running against a Sivir Victor, very good team fight champions, very good at setting up these fights, doing as much damage as possible, and there really isn't that much disengage actually available from XL, so it's going to be rough. It's going to be a matter of how well XL can kite around these fights, look to try and get these picks that they need, as well as Maldo repeating his early game pressure that he was able to pull off in the last game. So keep an eye out on how, you know, what Maldo tries to do. I don't think he's going to be looking to set up ganks in the top lane like he did last game. I imagine that he's going to focus more on the mid and the bottom lane this time round. You know, there's a lot more gank options available to him in the mid and top. And as well as that, note that Civiz is actually running Cleanse over the teleport, which means he's going to lose a bit of map pressure. If he gets forced out of lane early, he's going to be denied quite a lot, as he's not going to be able to join these fights without... he's not be able to get back into lane as quickly with the TP, so... But I think, as though in terms of the team compositions, I feel like FM actually have the stronger team comp, simply because hard engage traditionally does very well against poke compositions, and I just feel as though that with the Tahm Kench, it's going to be really difficult to get any picks onto the side of FM.
Yeah, and especially with that Sivir to slingshot that hard engage on in, but I'm really interested about the top lane right now. Kassadin up against Malphite. Now, I feel like this is kind of, in lane at least, going to be a battle of shields. They trade Qs, both of them are able to shield the damage. Do you feel like this is sort of favoured in either direction, or do you feel it's a fairly even lane?
I think it's a tough one to call. It could go either way, to be honest, and I think it's largely going to come down to the amount of pressure that can come out from these junglers. You know, how much impact they can have, how well they can set up these ganks, because, you know, from what we've seen, Maldo traditionally is the one that can get ahead, and from what we've seen so far, he is the early game jungler, and playing Lee Sin against the Gragas, he's going to be trying to repeat that performance, and I feel as though it's largely this, you know, this game will largely be decided by the amount of pressure that can be applied from both these junglers.
Yeah, and well, so far Maldo has certainly proved that he can apply that pressure. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to get too close of a look at how the junglers were playing last game. But we know that Maldo started off with a very early gank onto that bottom lane and was able to pick up that early first blood. I believe he just went straight after his blue. My client sort of froze while they were level 2 and he was in that bottom lane. So we'll see.
He actually got first blood onto Flaxish in the top lane.
Oh, was it?
He did try to set up a gank in the bottom, but wasn't quite successful. But then he finished his jungle path and then moved up to top, and he got himself first blood along with the help of Billy on that cannon.
Okay, there we go then. So it was up in the top lane, but the early pressure, nonetheless. We'll see if Kino is going to be able to respond to that one this game. In our first best of 3 today, Choke versus the Null, we saw Shaven Tortoise really respond to the pressure a lot better in the second game. Perhaps Kino will be able to take a leaf out of Shaven Tortoise's book and do the same on this Gragas. You can go for that early pressure while playing the Gragas if you choose to, and we'll see if that's what he's going to go for. But we are going to be heading onto the Rift in just a couple of seconds for you guys. And we're going to go into our second game between FM and XL Esports. XL managing to hold the lead for the entire game in the last one until FM somehow managed to clutch it, grab the Baron and grab the game for themselves. We'll see. Obviously XL, they're going to be wanting to get revenge after that.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much dominated the game up until, they were winning up until they lost. They were so commanding in their early pressure, their rotations, they were getting the right picks, and it was pretty much XL's game to lose, and that's exactly what they did. They just played a little bit too over-aggressive. They weren't able to shut down Toaster, and he ended up running away with the game. So I imagine they're not going to allow that to happen again. Maybe that is exactly what Maldo's going to try and do, try and shut Toaster down as soon as possible, but it's just so difficult when you're in a lane with a Tahm Kench, and, as you can see, he is very familiar with this Tahm Kench. It's something that Toaster has been playing Tundra has been playing quite a lot, and he's definitely comfortable on the champion. But I really want to highlight that Billy's on Malphite, the champion that he has a 9.5 KDA on. 9.5. That's insane.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Billy not do well on Malphite. He knows perfectly where and when to use those ultimates. He never falls too far behind in lane, and he loves to play these defensive top laners that can... You never really lose lane necessarily, you just kind of go even in most matchups. We'll see. Exabyte looking to land the Dark Binding onto Flaxish. The flash immediately comes out. So a nice bit of pressure early on from this XL lineup. We'll see if they can turn that early flash into a kill later on.
Yeah, Kassadin without a flash in the early game is definitely very risky, and he will have to play relatively passive in this early game because with the damage coming out from Maldo, they could easily pick that one up. But now the bottom lane for XL need to be very careful. I don't think they're going to expect both Toaster and Tundra to be sitting in that brush, and if they do go for these Krugs, they could be in a lot of trouble. So I'm a little bit worried for the bottom lane of XL right now. They had no vision in this bottom half. They have no idea that this is coming. This could be big for FM.
Oh, they might be suspicious, but the face check is about to come on through. The fight ensues, and it's going to be Tundra locked up by the binding. But it's just going to be a trade of damage here in the bottom lane. Neither of them committing to the fight fully. I feel slight advantage off the back of that in favour of FM purely because Toaster didn't take any damage, but I don't think either side really took anything massive home from that one.
Well, Toaster managed to get himself a ward, so he's already leading on CS. And but I agree with you, nothing really gained for either side, but already nice poke coming out from this Tahm Kench Sivir lane, and something that we haven't seen very often. But look at this! Wow, didn't realize that Tahm Kench could apply this much poke pressure during the early laning phase.
Yeah, it has taken a lot of damage back, but obviously from that support position, you're able to start with 3 or 4 pots depending on your preference. So, well, 4 pots after Season 6 when mana pots are no more. But my spectator client has unfortunately lagged out. So we will, fingers crossed, in precisely 8 seconds, it's all just going to catch up and we're all going to be fine and we're not going to have another single bit of lag.
What is it with these two teams, eh?
Don't know. Who's Froggen, please, stop DDoS.
Yeah, Froggen, please. This is the UK scene.
Oh! No, okay. I had to...
action just happened.
Yeah.
But, this is an important game for XL. If they can win this, this could potentially be one of, I would argue, the biggest upsets in the UK. XL for a long time have been considered a bit of a dark horse, but they seem to always play well, but then something happens and they lose the game. And this brings me back to when they played against Choke, and they pretty much they got 2-0'd by Choke, but that wasn't indicative of how well XL actually played. XL had the lead in both of those games, but then Choke were able to turn it around and came out ahead, and it was just... It's always been this way for XL. They've always just been so close to winning these best-of-3 series, but just not quite enough. And that happened to them again in the last game. And right now, this could be their opportunity to, get their first win on the board. And to get it against FM means that they could potentially be in for a spot at trying to claim one of those top 4 positions and make it to our playoffs happening later on in December. And right now, Spectator is being a little bit all over the shop. And this is, again, something that we actually have no control over. This isn't anything to do with us. This is just straight up the spectator client being somewhat of a pain in the backside, and unfortunately there is very little that we can do about it.
Yeah, there certainly is. We are getting odd snippets of the game. Not a whole lot has been going on just yet. I say that, first blood has apparently happened as Maldo came into the mid lane, and for my game seems to have caught up. We seem to be on the go again. Ped going to be heading back to base. I am at 4:45, so we'll just continue like nothing happened. First blood goes over to Ped in that mid lane on the Lux. Definitely a really nice pickup for him. Obviously Victor, very, very strong champion in the current meta. And Lux with a similar kind of style of play. They're going to be very happy to have that one on the board. Maldo trying to get something in the top lane, but he's not going to be able to find Flaxish there.
And this is the early pressure we were talking about, you know. We didn't actually see exactly what happened, but it looked like Kino tried to set up for a gank and didn't work. You know, right now Flaxish doesn't have flash.
He doesn't indeed, and Maldo is going very aggressive for this one. Ward jumps forward. There's the Q from Billy. He's trying to donate the kill. Maldo might just have to take it. It doesn't land, but there's the Sonic Wave. They nearly lost that one then.
Oh man, that was so close.
That was that could have gone disastrously very easy there, but
2 early kills coming over once again from Maldo. This guy's early pressure is insane. Yeah. I talked about how it's going to be about how well these guys can set up early pressure, and Maldo doing a great job just like he did in the last game. And I'm very impressed with this guy's performance, and the fact that ESL have never played with him before, and he's doing this much of a great job. I'm super impressed with this guy, and you know, ESL have done a great job of bringing him in for this series.
Yeah, so far both of the series today have been all about this early jungle pressure. The first series, it was all about Nocturnal Plex, controlling the jungle and going for this early pressure. And now it's about Maldo. Icy could be in a little bit of trouble, taking a lot of damage, but if it can last, Maldo has arrived on the scene. Tundra gonna gobble up Sivir though, and they might just be able to get away from this one. Toaster on less than 100 HP though. If Maldo can land a Q, it's not gonna happen, and neither is Spectator Client by the looks of things, as the data is unavailable. Spectator data unavailable. This game will now exit, and I don't know what else to say. Andy, take it away.
So right there you saw, this is the annoying thing about a Tahm Kench. The moment your AD carries in trouble, that would have been a guaranteed kill onto Toaster if Tahm Kench wasn't in the game. And this is the most annoying thing when dealing with that giant version of a catfish, when, you know, that would have been a great kill for the bottom lane of ESL to be able to pick up. To try and shut down Toaster that early on would have been great. But very nice reactions coming out from Tundra to do his best to keep him alive. But this means that they can look to set up more pressure later on. And, you know, I am jumped back into the Spectator, but it's just giving me a replay of exactly what we just saw. And it was just a great play overall. I think that now, without the flash available for Tundra, they can look to set up maybe another play in the bottom lane. You know, trying to focus Tundra instead of Toaster could be a good thing. But either way, it's still nice advantages gained for ESL. They're doing a good job in this early game, and it's just, again, coming down to Maldo and his early game pressure. I am spectating the game fairly smoothly. I don't know about my co-caster.
I'm just trying to reconnect now. Fingers crossed.
All right.
I too will be spectating smoothly.
Now, I'm not currently at live, so I will provide some basic commentary of what's going on so far, but once you reconnect...
I'm at 70% now, so fingers crossed so I'll connect where you... I'm at 7-11 now. Not the shop, the time. I'm now at 7:16. Apparently I'm live, so there's not a whole lot I can do to change my time currently.
We'll just go from here. I'm only a bit ahead of you, and as long as you do the commentary, I can actually pause it for a couple seconds and we're good. So, take it away, Munch.
Well, for some reason XSplit isn't even detecting that the game is open right now, which is fantastic news. Toaster, however, is in a whole lot of trouble. Is going to be able to spell shield, but now Maldo arrives on the scene. The Sonic Wave should be able to land. Nice. He gets the kill. You can hear the action going on. I'm pretty certain that the game is happening, but I'm just going to try and refresh the scene.
Oh no! Oh wow! Okay, right. So basically, what just happened there was they set up as you might have seen, what happened was that Maldo heads towards the bottom lane to get a kill into Toaster. Toaster overstays with incredibly low amount of health. They don't realize that Maldo flanks around from behind, goes through the tri-bush, and ends up actually getting a kill onto Toaster. And this is great, but because he's put under the tower, Tundra actually gets 3 stacks of acquired taste on top of Maldo. He then gobbles him up, throws him under the tower, puts the ignite on top of him, and then Maldo jumps to his teammates, Icy and Exabyte, and the heal comes out from Icy to keep Maldo alive, but it actually fails and goes on to Exabyte, but thanks to the safeguard, it keeps him alive on about 10 HP, so they're able to get away, and that was incredibly clutch, but right now, it is XL Esports once again in the lead, 1.5k ahead, 3 kills to 0.
Yeah, and I am back in now. The stream seems to be working. Apologies about all these spectator issues and just general issues. Yeah, they certainly could. Flaxish gonna rift walk away from that one. Billy not quite able to finish that one off. Does have his unstoppable force available if he finds an opportunity.
I felt like he could have just fully committed there.
Yeah.
He could have gone for the kill, but I guess he realized he doesn't have the mana. Flash comes out from Exabyte.
Yeah, he also didn't know where Kino combo was, but Toaster is going to be in a whole lot of trouble here. The slow comes down. There's the Dragon's Rage and the rocket to finish. That was almost overkill right there, just using all of the ultimates onto Toaster.
Yeah, so Toaster overstaying once again. Very easy kill for Maldo. He literally just walked down into the lane, threw the smite out to get the slowdown. And very impressive. I like this pressure coming out from Maldo. And so far we've seen nothing from Kino. I don't think we've actually seen a gank come out. As I say that, right now, Tundra looking to set something up in the top.
They certainly are. Billy could be in trouble here. He's in a 3 versus 1. He's knocked up. And actually his ultimate fails. He's going to be stuck here. Flash is on cooldown. He's going to be burnt down slowly but surely. His teammates trying to arrive on the scene, but Flaxish is going to finish him off before anybody can save him. So nice play there by FM to capitalize on that one and finally get themselves a kill.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Billy. He miscalculated the range on his unstoppable force and ended up using it on a wall, which turns out can stop his force. So that's what happens when an unstoppable force collides with an immovable object. The immovable object apparently wins. Yep. So congratulations to the immovable object. Right now, that is going to be FM's first kill.
Age-old question answered.
Kill in favor of FM so far.
Yeah, it certainly is. And now, looks like Dragon might just be the next objective on either of these teams' eyes. Ping does come out from XL to maybe start to look towards that objective. And I'm going to just quickly restart my client once more.
And they just don't want us to watch this game.
No. You're absolutely right, but we are determined. Nothing will stand in the way of the ESL UK Premiership, except for Worlds. We delayed the games for Worlds, so that stood in the way. But we're determined that we will not be thwarted. We will bring you the action of the second game. FM Esports currently 1-0 up. XL in the lead in this second game, and I'm currently in the loading screen to try and get
I've reconnected
back onto.
Right now, I can give you a bit of a running commentary during the downtime.
Take us away, Andy.
So we did see a bit of a gank being set up in the middle lane. Maldo went very aggressively onto Civiz, and it forced his flash out. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, bit of a close exchange also went out that forced both flashes out from Toaster and Tundra. But off the back of that, it does look like that FM's bottom lane are going to be able to pick up that tier 1 tower. So that's going to be the first tower of the game, and they're going to close the gold gap. So it's going to be 19,000 gold to 19,000 gold. So still all to play for both these teams. Meanwhile, Billy in the top lane is going to be completing his Spirit's Visage, so he's going to have plenty of magic resist to deal with this Kassadin. Billy's back just manages to complete just before Flaxish can get that auto attack off. So unfortunately, my spectator client has once again died, so that is the only commentary that I can provide.
Mine's just come back up. Ziv is in so much trouble. The ultimate is on cooldown for Ped though, so not quite going to be able to finish off that Victor. But Tundra has arrived on the scene, but already run out of grey health, and he could be in all kinds of trouble. Maldo going to go through with the Sonic Wave, jumps back to a minion and pulls himself to safety. A beautiful burn comes out from Exabyte, and Zivis is going to go down. Billy finishes him off with a Seismic Shard, and now everybody has decided to stand around for a tea break as Flaxish is eyeing up Ped. He's trying to go for that null sphere, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen today.
At least we got to see half a team fight. That's what matters. And Maldo with the beautiful mechanics onto Tundra. I really like that play, and what a great binding coming out from Exabyte to shut down Ziviz. We have joined back, and it does look like that Ped actually survived thanks to the unstoppable force that came out from Billy onto Flaxish to lock him down. So off the back of that, XL going to pick themselves up a dragon. And already we're seeing another great early game coming out from XL. 7-1 is the kill difference. 3,000 gold in favor of XL Esports. And my spectators running smoothly once again. For how long? Very debatable.
Only time will tell. As you say, XL with a fantastic lead in this one so far. They're looking to try and get themselves a win on the board. I'm pretty sure they feel relatively robbed in that last game. They were pretty far ahead and then ended up losing out, and we'll see if they can keep the lead this time and maybe look to try and close this one out. Billy has been doing a fantastic job in this series up against Flaxish in that top lane. Nice spell shield by Toaster to block out that binding. And let's take a look at our inventories right now. We've got 10 CS lead in the bottom lane almost in favor of Toaster, and 20 CS lead in the mid lane in favor of Ziviz. FM are doing a good job to stay up on farm here. The question is, can they get themselves together in these skirmishes?
Thing is, I feel as though that's quite normal for a Lux to fall behind in farm, but he's not falling behind in terms of the goal. No. You know, if we just have a look at that, he does have a slight 300 gold lead. Excuse me, thanks to the great kills that he was able to pick up earlier on off the back of Maldo. The problem I see once again for XL is that Maldo has all of their kills, and while he is applying a lot of pressure all around the map, it's not him that'll carry the game. It's Icy and Ped that'll really be the deciding factors as to who comes out ahead. So Maldo really needs to try his best to try and hand those kills around, do what he can to help other people get ahead as much as possible. But one thing you need to give credit for Maldo on is take a look at that vision in the bottom half of the map. There are 7 wards. Actually, yeah, that is 7 wards in the bottom half of FM's jungle. They have full knowledge of, if anything, I think that's overkill on the vision. It's just, that is beautiful. They know exactly what Kino combo might be trying to do, and it's a matter of now how well they can play around it. They do see them grouping up. They might be looking for a gank in the bottom lane, and you can already see Maldo and Ped in position to counter.
Yeah, and they're going to go in for the tower dive. There's immediately the final spark, but it doesn't connect onto anyone, but that's a kill for Exabyte. Oh, the binding comes in onto Tundra. He's going to be going down. That's going to be given over to Icy. In the meantime, the mid lane push is coming out from Ziviz and Kino, but they might just trade this for a tier 2 if XL want to push really hard.
Yeah, they have the minion wave to do it. Ped is going to back away, and I think that's a smart thing to do. But with 10 seconds still on the death timers, they could look to put some damage down onto this tier 2 tower in the bottom lane. But what FM have decided to do is exactly the same. Ped's ultimate is about to come back up, so I don't think they're actually going to be able to get this one. And very nice play coming out from XL. They're doing a fantastic job in this early game. Really want revenge for what happened in the last game. Binding lands.
Oh, Flaxish in all kinds of trouble. He's going to be locked up by the Flame Chompers. There's the last auto attack. The crit comes through, and it's another kill for Icy. And now Tundra is on the scene, but he's already being chunked out. Another binding lands. Exabyte doing work on this Morgana, but now the rest of the squad has arrived, and Exabyte is obliterated. Now Maldo and Icy being chased around. They're going to be stunned up, and this is a perfect fight coming out for FM. They pick themselves up 3 kills, and now they're looking for Ped. If anyone can land any CC, then they would be able to take him out. And they run us through what happened in that fight.
That was a beautiful play from both teams. You know what? You know, it looked like Flaxish has caught himself out, but all he was actually trying to do was buy time. He wanted the rest of FM to join the fight so that, because you noticed that Ped was too busy dealing with the mid lane wave. He had to get rid of that to prevent any further shove coming on down to the tower. And that meant that Civiz and Kino could look to set up the flank around behind the rest of XL Esports. So what Flaxish did was he came in, yes, he lost his life, he probably wasn't intending pretending to die, but he kept XL long enough for the rest of FM to collapse upon them, and they were able to get themselves 3 kills. They also pick up the tower in the bottom lane, but they lose the tower in the top. So I think it was a fairly even trade across both teams, but in terms of the actual map pressure gained, it went heavily in favor of XL Esports. So great play coming out from those guys so far, and they're maintaining this 3,000 gold lead that they've been able to build up. Very impressive from XL. It's just a matter of now, will they be another coast? Will they keep winning until they lose the game?
So I have a question for you, Vedius. Now, I'm gonna paint a picture for you, and I want you to tell me the answer. You're playing Kassadin. You're in the top lane, and so far it's not been going that great. You've ended up 1 and 3. You finished your Rod of Ages. What's your next item? Is it Medjai's Soul Stealer?
It probably would have been Azonia's. I can't. Right, for a start on Kassadin, I've never thought, you know what? I need a measure. Kassadin, he needs Medjai's. That's really what completes his build. But the fact that hasn't had a great laning phase, and there's no reason to even consider setting that one up. I don't know why he's gone for that. But
it's brave. I'll give him that.
I don't know. I don't know, Flaxish. I feel as though after his he hasn't been performing well. This isn't the Flaxish that we're used to seeing, and it's a little bit surprising right now. Kino Combo taking a bit of damage, but it does look like that XL trying to set up a shove with Billy setting up a bit of a split push in the top lane.
Yeah, absolutely. A nice binding lands onto Ziviz, immediately cleanses that one off as Flaxish is going in onto Maldo, but they get... Oh, the binding doesn't quite connect. The rocket does though, and Billy gets a triple unstoppable force. Flaxish trying to get away, and Billy is going to walk away, but Toaster flashes for the kill. And now he's caught up by a light binding, but Tundra is there to pick him up in his maw. And now... we see XL looking to try and set up a siege. The binding doesn't quite land onto Ziviz, but there's a Sonic Wave. Is Maldo going to go for this one? I wouldn't have been surprised, but the Chaos Storm used onto 2 doesn't do as much damage as they might have hoped as Kino gets caught by a binding. So many bindings in this game, but Maldo could be in trouble as Flaxish's teleport back in. Exabyte does go down. Flaxish is going to fall as well, though. 1-for-1 support for top. Ziviz flashes forward, but can't quite finish any of them. What is going on right now? They have to back away, but Dragon is up.
That whole fight kicks off with XL trying to siege down the middle lane. They managed to catch Ziviz, but because of that very clutch cleanse, a lot of ultimates didn't actually land onto him. So the Super Mega Death Rocket was gone, as well as the ultimate coming out from Ped. And it was just very unfortunate that neither of them were able to actually land their abilities onto Ziviz, because after that, a beautiful unstoppable force came out from Billy. And if those ultimates were still available, XL would have won that fight straight up, immediately. They would have turned things around and they would have been able to pick themselves up some towers. But because of the slight miscommunication, because they invested so many resources onto Ziviz, who just cleansed away the damage, it meant that they ended up trading 2-for-1 overall. Unfortunately for Flaxish, he overcommitted just a bit. And XL managing their shields very well to prevent themselves from actually losing anyone, but it does look like they're trying to get a consolation prize. They want to take this tower, and I think they should be able to get it.
Yeah, they're going to be able to burn this one down. That's one of the beautiful things. When you're running that Jinx, you can... if you are able to get in range to use that Pow Pow minigun, you can just destroy those towers so quickly. Obviously, the range on that ability is very short, but on the grounds that the enemy team isn't around, you're going to be able to get that super high attack speed and just mow down those objectives. And now we're starting to see... I mean, the lead this game has pretty much maintained where it was sort of 10-15 minutes in. There's still 3,000 gold ahead in favor of XL. As I say that, they try and prove me wrong by picking up yet another kill. It's going to be Ziviz going down. That's his second death of the game. And another fantastic pick. This pick composition really doing wonders right now for XL.
Maldo is really impressing me. This guy, like... I mean, Icy, when I was talking to him, he said, "Oh, I've got this friend of mine, he's a former teammate, and, you know, I'm just getting him to sub in because XL have told me that they need a jungler." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. That's very nice of you." And I'm like, "Can you tell me much about Maldo?" And he's like, he's kind of aggressive." I was thinking, okay, cool, that's fun to see. And like when he said he was aggressive, I wasn't expecting this. 5-1 and 6. He's been involved in 11 of the 12 kills in this game for XL. This guy has been incredible. He's been setting up so many of the plays for the side of XL. I feel like he's really been the shot caller that XL have been lacking for such an incredibly long time. And you know, we've talked about how there's so much potential coming out from XL. You know, they're so close to winning against these top teams, but they just can't quite make it. And I feel as though bringing in Maldo is actually doing them a lot of favors. It's forcing FM to actually really work hard. And okay, XL did end up throwing it in the last game. They seem to have collected themselves. They've maintained a gold lead pretty much for this entire game. Right now, it's just a matter of closing things out. They want to win this series against FM, and to do it would be a massive achievement for them. They then have the possibility of maybe breaking into the top 4.
Yeah.
And for XL, that would be a ridiculous achievement. So, you know, this game is very important for both these teams. Obviously, FM want to secure themselves the spot at the top. They don't want to lose that, you know, in the ESL UK Premiership. And XL, incredible performance. I'm really impressed with what they've brought out today.
Absolutely. But this is the crucial part right now, because FM are renowned for their late game team fighting. And speaking of team fighting, Tundra's gone in all on his own and he's been obliterated. What just happened? Nobody went in with him. I feel like there should have been a teammate there as well, but just complete misplay coming out from Tundra. He's punished immediately. And the Baron is potentially an option right now. Or they could just push for lanes. XL have a wide open map.
That combo, the final super mega death spark. Because whenever a single target gets caught out of position, both Ped and Icy immediately throw out their ultimates and just delete whichever target gets caught up in that combination. They need to be so careful. All these bindings coming out from everywhere. Oh man, I love this composition. And you know, I was talking about, it's, you know, how are you going to catch anyone out when they've got a Tam Kench? You know, he's just going to gobble them up. Well, you just catch the Tam Kench out. That's exactly what you do. But
does it count as catching out, though, if he jumps into your team?
Exactly. Something I wanted to bring up about Tundra is I've actually seen him play in the past. Recently, in another online tournament, he debuted as the support, and something about his support play is that while he's mechanically very solid and generally plays very well, often he makes very questionable decisions. And right there is a prime example of that. It felt like he wanted to try and set up a flank for the rest of his team, but not enough time for that because Toaster's caught out.
He certainly is indeed. Flashes away. The Ignite is ticking. The rocket doesn't land, and Heart of the Mountain is going to keep him alive. As Exabyte now knocked back by the explosive cast, but Final Spark is going to destroy Kino combo. And despite a bad start for FM, it gets even worse. The jungler has fallen, and now they're looking to try and take an objective off the back of this one. The bottom lane inhibitor might just be that, but it looks like they're even going to back away from this one.
The final super mega death spark doing incredible work over for XL right there. I mean, it was the fact that they put so many resources onto killing Exabyte. It's very unlucky that the Ignite wasn't quite enough to kill Toaster. Health pots being the saving grace for him right there. But because they invested so many resources onto Exabyte without being able to kill him, he basically just sat underneath them all with his soul shackles latched onto 3 members. That set up nicely for Billy to follow up with his unstoppable force, and then they basically just comboed it with the final spark and the super mega death rocket to be able to get the kill onto Kino. And you know, the problem for XL is, while yes, they're doing a great job of getting all these kills, they're not really translating it into many objectives. And dancing around this Baron, getting vision control could be their opportunity to maybe swing the game heavily in their favor. They have a huge amount of pick potential. All they need is good vision control around FM's half of the map, and then they can look to set this big play up. Very close. I still feel as though this is a very close game between these two teams. One single play could heavily swing this back in the favor of FM.
Yeah, it certainly could. And I mean, we saw that, or we didn't see that in the last game. FM were able to take it despite a massive deficit. So far, XL have managed to pick up this gold lead that they had last game. Let's see if they're gonna be able to keep this one going. One of the issues XL might have is something you touched on earlier, is Maldo has almost all of their kills. He has been the driving force, the reason that XL are so far ahead right now. But Lee Sin falls off in the late game, the later stages of the game. We're already almost coming up to 30 minutes now. They could start to get to the point where Lee Sin really isn't as effective as that Gragas.
The thing is, I actually feel that with the recent itemization changes, Lee Sin actually has a little bit more of an impact coming into the later game, especially with Dead Man's Plate, because when you actually fully stack the Dead Man's Plate, you get a bit of bonus extra damage on that basic attack, but not enough time for that because Tundra's dead.
Tundra caught out once again, not having the best game of his life right now. And
this is big.
This is going to be the Baron started, but take a look down in the mid lane. Immediately, Zivis, Kino, and Toaster begin pushing onto these towers. There needs to be some kind of response from XL right now because they've only just finished the Baron. They're going to get those empowered recalls, but they lose the inhibitor right now. That is going to be taken down finally by Toaster. Now, FM just get to walk away. Maldo is looking to try and deny that, though. He lands the Q onto Flaxish. She's going to go in, but he gets stunned up by that gravity field. And now Flaxish, another Q lands. That's going to be the knock-up onto Zivis. The final spark isn't quite enough damage, but Maldo should be there. Oh, there's the Super Mega Death Rocket that takes him out. Icy picking up that kill. But so far, they only get one kill for the inhibitor right now. What can they do with this Baron? That's the question. Or Maldo reckons it's what can we do with this opportunity. He's not quite going to be able to follow up right now, though.
The thing is, a lot of their wave clear is unavailable because Zivis is dead, and off the back of that, with all these Baron empowered minions, look at that, the Banner of Command minion, so tanky. They're actually going to get themselves an inhibitor off the back of that themselves. What a great play coming out from XL. This might be a bit greedy, but they're going for this second tower too.
Well, they still have a dead Zivis on the enemy team. Tundra is going to be blown apart once again, and now Toaster getting chunked out. One more auto attack is going to be more than enough as 3 kills come across into the hands of XL. Maldo on 400 HP, but it looks like it might just be enough right now. Zivis trying to do what he can, but he's already getting chunked here. The auto attack's coming out from Icy, but he's not looking to fight. He's looking to end the game and turn this series into a 1-for-1 beautiful flash, and that is going to make it a 1-1 in favour of XL in that last game. They've tied up this series. They've managed to close it out, and FM is starting to look a little bit dicey for them.
But this is what I was talking about, right? It's the fact that Toaster is not the hyper carry. Last game, it's pretty much all about Toaster. I said how Zivis doesn't seem to be performing like he used to. I don't know what's going on with Flaxish, but so far, in the last 2 games, he's averaged, well, he's totaled 12 deaths between these 2 games. I mean, that's ridiculous. That. And on top of that, it's the matter of that Kino just isn't having the impact that he needs to. Maldo is outperforming Kino. Billy is outperforming Flaxish. Ped is going even and often outperforming Zivis. And it's pretty much between these 2 AD carries. And this time, Icy was the one on the Jinx. Toaster was the one on the Sivir. And because Icy was able to just get a slight lead, he was able to run away with the game. Just XL bringing in these subs, completely changing up their playstyle, and they're able to take a game off of FM Esports. And considering how strongly they dominated FM in the first game, and how well they did in this second game, for this third game, XL could cause the upset of the ESL Premiership.
They certainly could, and we'll have to see if they're going to be able to after this short break. Do not go anywhere. We'll see if the Dark Horse XL Esports is going to be able to topple the UK giants of FM Esports. We'll be back in just a few.